Hello, welcome to today's edition of the Civil Service Promotion, COMPRO and Recruitment Exam CBT question and answer video presentation. Today we'll be looking at the public service rule, which is more of a book that you will be tested on as you prepare for any of these exams. We'll be considering chapter 10, which borders on discipline, and this is the 8th series of this video presentation. Have you seen series 1 to 7? If not, then that means you are not subscribed to this channel. If you are subscribed to this channel, you will get a regular notification of our video uploads once they are uploaded. So without wasting time, take your time, check down of this video, click the subscribe button, and remember to turn on the notification bell. And once you do that, you will be notified each time we drop any of our videos, because as time goes on, we'll be chunking all the videos presentation that you need in order to successfully pass either your promotion exam, COMPRO exam, or recruitment exam that has to do with any civil service. So today we'll be considering 50 question and answer from the PSR. And today's presentation is going to be taken from the section 3 of chapter 10, which is under misconduct. The first question we'll be considering today is a question on PSR chapter 10, section 3 and paragraph 3. And the question says, according to PSR 100307, who has the authority to dismiss an officer in the federal public service? Is it A, the head of civil service, B, the president, C, the Federal Civil Service Commission, or D, the minister of the officer's ministry? So look at this question thoroughly. Which do you think is the right option? Who in the first place employed a public servant? It is the Federal Civil Service Commission. Public servants from level 7 up to level 13 are employed by the Federal Civil Service Commission. So if they have the power to employ, that definitely means that they have the power to also dismiss. They are the ones that have the only power to dismiss. So what is the right option? The right option is C, which is the Federal Civil Service Commission. And the explanation says that the PSR 1003 paragraph 7 clearly states that dismissal may only be carried out by the Federal Civil Service Commission or the board that is arranged by the Federal Civil Service Commission, and it must follow due process. Question number 2. Before disciplining an officer, what must first be done according to PSR Chapter 10, Section 3, Paragraph 37I? A. Suspend the officer. B. Notify the officer in writing of the ground for discipline. C. Summon the official verbally. And D. Invite the officer's supervisor. The right option is option B. And option B says notify the officer in writing of the grounds for discipline. And this is taken from the PSR 100307 section paragraph 07I. The explanation says the officer must receive a written query detailing the grounds for disciplinary action, the rule broken, and the possible penalty. Option B. Question number 3. In serious cases that may result in dismissal, what right does the officer have? A. The right to remain silent. B. The right to view documents or reports used against him. C. The right to appoint his own inquiry board. And D. The right to delay the process indefinitely. Which do you think is the right option? Let's check it out. The right option is option B, and option B says the officer has the right to view documents or reports that are being used against him. So the option is taken from the PSR chapter 10 section 3, and the rule says the rule allows an officer to access to documents or reports used against him so that he can prepare a fair defense for himself. The right option is option B. Question number 4. What happens if an officer fails to respond to a disciplinary query within the specified time? A. The query is cancelled. B. The officer is automatically exonerated. D. The commission may take any appropriate action. And D. The process restarts after 30 days. The right option is option C, and option C says the commission may take any appropriate action. Yes, the commission may take any appropriate action if the officer failed to respond to the disciplinary query within the specified time. The Federal Civil Service Commission, the Federal Civil Public Service Rule explained that failure to respond within the given time allows the Federal Civil Service Commission to proceed with any disciplinary action that they deem fit. And this is taken from section 10, chapter 10, section 3, and paragraph 7. The right option is option C. Question number 5. What is the composition requirement for a board of inquiry set up by the commission? A. It must be 2 members only. B. Not less than 3 members with 1 as chairman. C. 1 senior officer and 2 secretaries. And D. 5 members including the officer involved. The right option is option B, and option B says not less than 3 members with 1 as chairman. The explanation says a board of inquiry must have at least 3 members and 1 is appointed chairman by the commission. Option C. Question number 6. Who must not be a member of the board of inquiry? A. The secretary to the government. B. Any junior staff. C. The permanent secretary of another ministry. And D. The head of the officer's department. The right option is option D, and option D says the head of the officer's department. And the essence is to ensure fairness and impartiality. The head of the officer's department cannot serve as on the inquiry board. Option D. Question number 7. What happens if an officer fails to appear before the board of inquiry? A. The board's proceedings remain valid. B. The case is dismissed. C. The case is postponed indefinitely. And D. The officer automatically loses his job. The right option is option A, and option A says the board proceedings remain valid. If he fails to appear before the board of inquiry, whatever they say against him remains valid. And that is what PSR chapter 10 section 3 paragraph 7 uh, paragraph 7 uh, uh, 7 part 7 specifies that failure to appear does not invalidate the proceedings of the board. Question number 8. During a disciplinary inquiry, can document be used against an officer without prior access? A. Yes, if approved by the head of service. B. Yes, if the board decides to. C. No, unless the officer has been given access to them. And D. Yes, if the documents are confidential. The right option is option C, and option C says no, unless the officer has been given access to them. The explanation says that the rule explicitly forbids using any documentary evidence against an officer unless he has been given access or a copy beforehand. That's the right option, C. Question number 9. What must happen if further grounds for dismissal arise during an inquiry? The inquiry must be abandoned. B. The commission must provide the officer a written statement and restart due process. C. The officer must resign immediately. D. The commission can proceed without informing the officer. Remember, the question says what must happen if further grounds for dismissal arise during an inquiry. The right option is option B, and option B says the commission must provide the officer a written statement and restart due process. The explanation says that if new grounds are discovered, the officer must be furnished with written notice and the same fair procedures must be repeated. Question number 10. How long should all disciplinary procedures take according to PSR 10030713? Part 13. It says 30 days, B 40 days, C 60 days, and D 90 days. The right option is option C, and option C says 60 days. The PSR says all disciplinary procedures must be completed within 60 days except in criminal cases which may require more time. That time will actually be for investigation. So the normal time for all disciplinary procedures should be 60 days. Question number 11. According to PSR chapter 10 section 3 paragraph 8, under what condition can an officer render professional assistance during working hours? A. When approved by the National Assembly. B. When authorized in writing by Permanent Secretary or Head of Extra Ministerial Office. C. When requested by another agency. And D. When done voluntarily without pay. The right option is option B. And option B says when authorized in writing by the Permanent Secretary or Head of Extra Ministerial Office. The explanation says an officer must obtain written permission from the Permanent Secretary or Head of Extraministerial Office before assisting or receiving remuneration elsewhere. Remember, the question says according to the PSR, under what condition can an officer render professional assistance during working hours? Only when authorized in writing by the Permanent Secretary or Head of Extraministerial Office. Question number 12. What does PSR 100309 prohibit as a form of punishment for public officer? A. Suspension, B. Interdiction, C. Fine, and D. Reprimand. The right option is option C, that no fine shall be imposed as punishment for officers committed in the course of for offences committed in the course of duty. Disciplinary measure must conform to established procedures such as suspension, warning, or dismissal, non-monetary penalty. So the right option should be option C. Fine. Question number 13. According to PSR chapter 10, section 3, paragraph 10A, when may an officer be surcharged by the government? A. When he applies for a loan from the government. B. When the public revenue sustains a loss due to his neglect or fault. C. When he fails to submit his annual report. And D. When he is transferred to another ministry. The right option is option B, and option B says when the public revenue sustains a loss due to his neglect or fault. The PSR states that an officer whose neglect or fault causes a loss to public revenue shall be surcharged with the amount that is lost. Option B. Question number 14. What may the government do to recover a surcharge imposed on an officer? A. Impose a salary deduction without notice. B. Transfer the officer to another post. C. Request a written apology from the officer. And D. Withhold sum due to him from the government. It's either A or D, and the right option is D. Now, why do I say it's either A or D? Because B and C has nothing to do with surcharge imposed on an officer. So the right option will either be A or D. And according to our answer, the answer should be D. And the D says withhold sums due to him from the government. So the rule authorizes government to withhold any sum due to the officer in the insatisfaction such surcharge. Question number 15. Under PSR 1003 paragraph 10b, when may workers defined under the Labour Act be surcharged? A. Only after they retire from service. B. Only with the approval of the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity. C. After receiving a query from their head of department. And D. When the head of civil service approve. The answer is B. Only with the approval of the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity. For workers defined under the Labour Act, surcharge action must be approved by the Federal Ministry of Labour and Productivity before enforcement. Question number 16. Under PSR Chapter 10, Section 3, Paragraph 11, what is an officer prohibited from doing? A. Borrowing money from the public. B. Joining a cooperative society. C. Guaranteeing or standing as surety for money lent on interest. And D. Investing in government bond. The right option is option C, and option C says guaranteeing or standing as surety for money lent on interest. And the explanation says officers are forbidden from standing as surety for loans granted with interest except under specific lawful conditions. Option C. Question number 17. Which of the following is an exception to the rule on surety under PSR 1003, paragraph 11? A. Standing surety for money lent by the government to another officer. B. Standing surety for private bank loan. C. Standing surety for a family member's loan. And D. Guaranteeing cooperative loan without approval. The right option is option A, and option A says standing surety for money lent by the government to another officer. And that is option A. The PSR permits officers to stand surety for loan made by government to another officer or through registered cooperative society. Which of the following is an exception to the rule on surety under PSR? So the right option here says option A, surety for money lent by government to another officer. The PSR permits officers to stand surety for loan made by government to another officers or through registered cooperative society. The answer and the option, does it rhyme? Let's look at this. Okay, guaranteeing cooperative loan without approval. The right option should be option A. Now let's look at question number 18. According to PSR chapter 10 section 3 paragraph 13, which of the following is prohibited for public officers? A. Wearing bright colors in the office. B. Appearing in an official capacity dressed in an improper or immodest manner. C. Using traditional attires on Fridays. And D. Wearing official badges during events. The right option is option B, and option B says appearing in an official capacity dressed in an improper or immodest manner. The PSR 1003-13 forbids officer from appearing in office or elsewhere officially dressed in an improper manner, inappropriate or immodest manner. The right option is option B. Question number 19. What is the main reason behind PSR 1003 paragraph 14's restriction on giving letters of recommendation? A. To prevent overworking officers. B. To control correspondence within ministry. C. To prevent irregular use of official letters or certificates by non-officials. And D. To maintain the confidentialities of documents. The right option is option C, and option C states to prevent irregular use of official letters or certificates by non-officials. The explanation says the PSR seeks to prevent illegal use or misuse of official letters of recommendation or character certificates by non-officials. Question number 20. According to PSR 1003, paragraph 14, many officers issue letters of recommendation in their official capacity. May officers issue letter of recommendation in their official capacity? A. Yes, only if the person is a relative. B. Yes, only with the minister's consent. D. Yes, for private institution. And D. No, they are prohibited from doing so. The question says, may officers issue letters of recommendation in their official capacity? The right option is option D, and the option D says no, they are prohibited from doing so. Reason is that the PSR says public officer must not issue letter of recommendation or character certificate in their official capacity, even on non-official stationery. So the right option is option D. The next few questions will be taken from section 4, which is serious misconduct. Question 21. What is the definition of serious misconduct according to Rule 100401 of the Public Service Rule? A. A minor offense punishable by warning. B. An act of negligence. C. A specific act of very serious wrongdoing and improper behavior which may lead to dismissal. A. An act of indiscipline punishable by suspension. The right option is option C, and option C says a specific act of very serious wrongdoing and improper behavior which may lead to dismissal. So the right option is option C. PSR 100401 defines serious misconduct as a specific act of very serious wrongdoing that can be investigated and, if proven, can lead to dismissal. Which of the following is considered a serious misconduct under Rule 100402? A. Punctuality at work. B. Falsification of records. C. Voluntary retirement. And D. Taking annual leave. The right option is option B, and option B says falsification of records. The explanation is taken from PSR 100402, which says among the listed acts of serious misconduct in Rule 100402, falsification of record is explicitly mentioned as a dismissible offense. Option B. Question number 23. What type of criminal conviction constitutes serious misconduct? A. Minor traffic offense. C. Civic fine. B. Civic fine. C. Parking violation. And D. Conviction on a criminal charge other than minor offenses. The right option is option D, and option D say conviction on a criminal charge other than minor offenses. So the right option is option D. It says only conviction on serious criminal charges, not minor traffic or sanitary offenses, qualifies as serious misconduct according to the real rule. Question number 24. Engaging in partisan political activities as a public servant is regarded as what? A. A normal right of citizenship. B. Misconduct punishable by suspension. C. Serious misconduct. And D. The dereliction of duty. Dereliction of duty. The right option is option C, and option C says serious misconduct. So engaging in partisan politics activity political activities as a public servant is regarded as a serious misconduct. Question number 25, and this is under the Public Service Rule, Chapter 10, Section 4, Paragraph 2G. It says partisan political activity is prohibited and treated as a serious misconduct because it compromises neutrality. Option C. Question number 25. Which of the following acts demonstrate divided loyalty? A. Holding allegiance to more than one authority. B. Serving diligently. C. Supporting a government policy. And D. Attending staff meeting. The right option is option A, and option A says holding allegiance to more than one authority. You are serving the government and you are serving another government. This is disloyalty, and it is a divided loyalty and is punishable. Divided loyalty refers to serving conflicting interests contrary to public service ethics, and it is listed under Rule 1004, paragraph 2T. So the right option is option A. Question number 26. What is the disciplinary procedure for cases of serious misconduct? A. At the discretion of the permanent secretary. B. Must follow proceedings in rules 1003 paragraph 2 to rule 1003 paragraph 6. C. Must base on oral warning, and D. Must be determined by the officer's department. The right option is option B, and option B says must follow proceedings in Rule 1003 paragraph 2 to Rule 1003 paragraph 6. So Rule 1004 paragraph 3 mandates that disciplinary action for serious misconduct must strictly follow the established disciplinary rule, which is from Rule 1003 paragraph 2 and 1003 paragraph 3, 6. So the correct option is option B. Question number 27. What is the maximum proportion of pay an officer on interdiction is entitled to? A. 25%, B. 40%, C. 50%, and D. 75%. The right option is option C, and option C says 50%. This is taken from Rule 100404, which states that an interdiction officer shall receive not more than half or 50% of their emolument pending investigation. Option C. Question on paragraph 29. Under what condition can an officer be interdicted? A. If his continued service is against public interest. B. If he requests to leave. D. After 3 warnings. D. When found guilty. The right option is option A, and option A says if his continued service is against public interest. And remember, the rule, chapter 10, section 4, rule 4II allows interdiction only if it is against the public interest for the officer to continue performing his duty during investigation. That is option A. Question number 30 says, what should happen if an interdicted officer is later found not guilty? A. He should be demoted. B. He should be suspended again. C. He should be reinstated and refunded all withheld pay. And D. He should be transferred. The right option is option C, and option C says he should be reinstated and refunded all withheld pay. According to Public Service Rule 040404, paragraph 044, a cleared officer must be reinstated and paid all withheld emoluments immediately. That is option C. Question number 30. If an officer is found guilty but not dismissed after interdiction, what happens to his withheld pay? A. It is forfeited entirely. B. It is refunded as the commissions determines. C. It is refunded in full. D. It is reduced permanently. The right option is option B, and option B says it is refunded as a commission determines. So the right option, the rule, chapter 10, section 4, paragraph 5 states that a portion of withheld salary may be refunded depending on the commission's discretion, and that is option B. Question number 31. Who must an interdicted officer notify before leaving his station? A. The President. B. The head of the civil service. C. The permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. And D. The accountant general. The right option is option C, and option C says the permanent secretary or head of extra ministerial office. So he must notify the permanent secretary of his ministry, and if he is in an agency, he must notify the head of the extra ministerial office. The rule of the paragraph 5A of the rule requires that an officer under interdiction must inform his permanent secretary or head of office before leaving his section. Option C. Question number 32. Who must specifically approve if an interdicted officer wishes to leave the country? A. The Federal Civil Service Commission. B. The President. C. The head of the Civil Service of the Federation. And D. The Minister of Interior. The right option is option C, and this option C is the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. The rule in paragraph 5A stated that an interdicted officer cannot leave Nigeria without the approval of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation. Question number 33. What is the consequence if an interdicted officer failed to respond to instruction within 7 days at his stated address? A. He is suspended indefinitely. B. He is regarded as absent from duty without leave. C. He is fined. And D. His interdiction is lifted. The right option is option B, and option B says he is regarded as absent from duty without leave. The rule in paragraph 5C stipulates that failure to comply within 7 days of receiving instructions will make the officer liable for absence without leave, and with that is a serious offense. So the right option is option B. Question number 33. What is the main difference between suspension and interdiction in the public service? This is a very important question. What is the main difference between suspension and interdiction in the public service? Suspension is used for minor offenses. Suspension is synonymous with interdiction. Suspension applies when a serious prima facie case has been established. And D. Interdiction stops all salary payment. The right option is option C, and option C says suspension applies when a serious prima facie case has been established. Now, the Public Service Rule, Chapter 10, Section 4, Paragraph 6 clarifies that suspension is not the same as interdiction. It applies when a serious prima facie case has been established requiring immediate prohibition from duty. That is option C. Question number 35 says, during a suspension, the affected officer is prohibited from taking annual leave, enjoying emoluments, and performing duties. C. Applying for transfer, and D. Assessing training program. The right option is option B, and option B says enjoying emoluments and performing duties. The Civil Service Rule states that a suspended officer is barred from exercising the powers and function of his office and from enjoying his emolument during investigation. So the right option is option B. Question number 36. Which authority may suspend an officer in the Federal Civil Service? A. The Minister of Finance. B. The Accountant General. C. The Federal Civil Service Commission or Permanent Secretary or Head of Extra-Ministerial Office. And D. The Head of the Department. The right option is option C, and option C says the Federal Civil Service Commission or the Permanent Secretary or Head of Extra-Ministerial Office. The Public Service Rule, paragraph 3 of section 4, chapter 10, says that the Federal Civil Service Commission or the Permanent Secretary or Head of Extra-Ministerial Office, if within delegated power, may suspend an officer in the public interest. So the option is C. The Permanent Secretary and the Head of Extra-Ministerial Offices will only be delegated the power to do that, but such power lies with the Federal Civil Service Commission. But they can delegate this power to the Permanent Secretary and heads of extra-ministerial offices according to the grade level of the officers in question. So the right option is option C. Question number 37. What is the ultimate penalty for serious misconduct under the Public Service Rule? A. Termination. B. Interdiction. C. Suspension. And D. Dismissal. The right option is option D. The Public Service Rule, paragraph 7 of section 4, says dismissal is the ultimate penalty for serious misconduct. Question number 38. What is the effect of dismissal on an officer's benefits? The officer retains pension rights. The officer forfeits all claims to retiring benefits. C. The officer may apply for reappointment after 5 years. D. The officer keeps leave and transport entitlement. The right option is option B, and option B says the officer forfeits all claims to retiring benefit. Retirement benefit, he won't get any of such benefits. And the rule in paragraph 7 provides that a dismissed officer forfeits all claims to retirement benefits, leave, or transport grant as stated under the Pension Reform Act 2024 as amended. So the right option is option B. Question number 39. When an officer is dismissed, when does the dismissal take effect? A. From the date of the disciplinary hearing. B. From the date of suspension. C. From the date the officer is notified of the dismissal. And D. From the date of Federal Civil Service approval. The right option is option C, and option C says from the date the officer is notified of the dismissal. The Public Service Rule, paragraph 8 states that dismissal takes effect from the date the officer is notified thereof, and this could include physical service, messenger delivery, or posting under the Interpretation Act. Option C. Question number 40. If an officer is avoiding notification of dismissal, which of the following can still make the dismissal effective? A. Delivery by messenger to his recorded address. B. Publication in a newspaper. C. His verbal acknowledgement. D. Notification through a family member. The right option is option A, and option A says delivery by messenger to his recorded address can still make his dismissal effective. The Public Service Rule, paragraph 8b, specifies that delivery by messenger to the officer's recorded address makes the notification effective even if the officer refuses to acknowledge it. So the right option is option A. Question number 41. What is an officer required to do if charged with a criminal offense? A. Immediately resign from service. B. Report to the media. C. Promptly report to his permanent secretary or head of extra-ministerial office. And D. Wait until after the court verdict. The right option is option C, and option C says promptly report to his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office. The Civil Service Rule 09 mandates that an officer must promptly report to his permanent secretary or head of extraministerial office when charged with a criminal offence and report the outcome. So the correct option is option C. Question number 42. What may happen to an officer convicted on a criminal charge? The officer must undergo a fresh disciplinary hearing. B. The commission may dismiss or impose a lesser penalty without following Rule Chapter 10, Section 3, Paragraph 7. C. The officer must be reinstated after serving a sentence. And D. The officer may only be interdicted. The right option is option B, and option B says the commission may dismiss or impose the lesser penalty without following the rule in paragraph 7 of section 3. So Rule 10004 paragraph 10 authorizes the commission to dismiss or penalize an officer upon conviction without following the full disciplinary procedures in Rule 03 paragraph 7, option B. Question 43. To which agencies must dismissal arising from criminal cases be reported? A. The Nigerian Bar Association. B. The National Assembly. C. The Auditor General Office. And D. The appropriate law enforcement agencies. The right option is option D. Dismissal arising from criminal cases should be reported to the appropriate law enforcement agencies. That's what Section 4, Paragraph 7 of Chapter 10 mandates that dismissal arising from criminal cases must be reported to the appropriate law enforcement agencies for record and actions. Question number 44. According to Rule 1004(11)(a), disciplinary action may be taken against an officer even when the officer is awaiting retirement. B. The officer has not received a salary. C. Criminal proceedings are pending, contemplated, or ongoing. And D. The officer has already been transferred. The right option is option C. So, disciplinary action may also be taken against an officer even when criminal proceedings are pending, contemplated, or ongoing. And that is what the Public Service Rule in Section 4, Paragraph 11A explicitly stated that disciplinary action can proceed whether or not criminal procedures are pending, contemplated, or already instituted in any court. So the right option is option C. Question number 45. Under PSR 1004(11)(b), can an officer acquitted of a criminal offense still be punished? A. No, under any circumstances. B. Yes, for the same offenses. C. Yes, for other related charges not substantially the same. And D. Only if approved. But the right option is option C, and option C says yes, for other related charges not substantially the same. The PSR rule states that an officer cannot be punished for an offense for which he was acquitted, but may still be disciplined for other related misconduct arising from the same event, provided the issues are not substantially the same. So C is the right option. Question number 46. When may an officer be suspended under PSR 1004, paragraph 12? A. When facing a minor disciplinary query. B. When convicted of a criminal offence other than minor traffic or sanitary offences. C. When an anonymous petition is received. And D. When a salary overpayment occurs. The right option is option B, and option B say when convicted of a criminal offence other than minor traffic or sanitary offences. The rule provides that an officer convicted of a criminal offence, except minor traffic or sanitary matters, must be suspended from the date of conviction pending the Commission's decisions. Question number 47. The suspension of an officer convicted of a criminal offence takes effect from A. The date the Commission sits on the matter, B. The next payment day, C. The date of sentencing, and D. The date of conviction. The right option is option D, and option D says the rule states clearly that suspension is effective from the date of conviction, not from later administrative actions. So the right option is option D. Question number 48. What is the likely disciplinary consequence if an officer travels out of Nigeria without official leave? A. Salary reduction, B. Suspension, D. Warning letter, and D. Dismissal from service. The right option is option D, and option D says dismissal from service. What is the likely disciplinary consequence if an officer travels out of Nigeria without official leave? So the disciplinary consequence should be dismissal from service. And the PSR rule, chapter 10, section 4, paragraph 13 says that any officer who absents himself from duty or travels out of the country without leave is liable to dismissal from the service. Question number 49. According to the rule in paragraph 13, who bears the burden of proof if an officer travels without permission? A. The head of department, B. The commission, C. The officer concerned, and D. The human resource unit. The right option is C. The officer concerned. The rule says the onus rests on the officer to prove that his absence or travel without leave was justified, otherwise dismissals applies. The last question, but not the least, under PSR chapter 10, section 4, paragraph 11 AII, disciplinary procedure may still be taken even if the grounds of disciplinary action are substantially the same as the criminal charge. B. The officer is due for promotion. C. The officer has been pardoned by the president. And D. The case was handled by the police. The right option is option A, that disciplinary actions or proceedings may still be taken even if the grounds of disciplinary action are substantially the same as a criminal charge. So, if the criminal charge has been established and the ground of disciplinary action is the same as that of criminal charge, disciplinary proceedings may still even be taken according to the PSR rule. And the explanation to this says that the PSR rule allows disciplinary procedure even when the grounds are substantially the same as those of a criminal case, meaning administrative discipline is independent of the criminal prosecution. So the right option is option A. This is the last question we'll be taking, but not the least. So I want to say thank you so much for watching. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, I want you to do that immediately before leaving this video presentation. That will help you get notified when a subsequent video presentation will be uploaded. In our next video presentation, we'll be looking at 50 questions from the Financial Regulation book. Stay tuned for that video presentation. So I want to say thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in our next presentation.